Thank you for viewing this American Sewing Guild educational series, and we're going to be talking about what a seam allowance is. A seam allowance is defined by the area between the cut edge of the fabric and the sewn seam line. The pattern is cut along the cutting line, and the seam is sewn as determined by the pattern instructions. A seam allowance can be any depth. In traditional sewing patterns, the seam allowance is 5/8 of an inch. Some independent sewing pattern companies may use 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch, or 1/2 inch seam allowances like factories use in ready-to-wear garments. The cut edge of the fabric is guided along the specified line on the throat plate of the sewing machine to create an even seam allowance the entire length of the sewn seam. The seam allowance should be even along the entire length of the sewn seam, whether it is straight or curved. Here you can see the seam is sewn and opened up, exposing each seam allowance. After the seam is sewn, the stitches are melded or set into the fabric, and then the seam allowances are pressed open before being finished with a seam finish appropriate for the fabric. Thank you for viewing this American Sewing Guild video. If you have any questions, email ramona@asg.org. The American Sewing Guild is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to people who believe sewing is a rewarding and creative activity. If you enjoyed this video, join ASG to view our library of in-depth educational videos on various sewing topics. They are free to our members. Members also enjoy discounts from vendors who support our organization, along with many other benefits.